But my love affair, both literally and figuratively, began with Kevin Smith because of that movie, as I'm sure it did with most of you. Who have seen Kevin talk at one of these things before in your lifetime? Okay, so just a few. So that's great. Most of you are virgins. If you have ever sampled any of his, and I highly recommend sampling some of his Evening with Kevin Smith DVDs if you haven't. The third one of which actually just came out today. And it's called Sold Out, A 3 Evening with Kevin Smith. So go get that. He's obviously a great giver of the Q&A. He's a great moderator of panels. When I finally got to meet him for the first time this year at Comic-Con, he had just come off about 4 hours worth of panels, and I'm not exaggerating. But he's also obviously a great writer and director of films that make us laugh like hell, that also make us think a little bit and touch us in our hearts and our groin. So please welcome Kevin Smith.
Stuff to talk about. Awesome to be here in Gotham City. Standing outside, I was like, motherfucker, this is Dark Knight country. If only we could make a fucking 10th of what that movie made, I'd be very happy. So let's rock it. Let's jump into it. Sir, yes.
My question is about that. You can't do that.
Okay. Let's try and follow it all. I think I got it. We initially did get the NC-17, and when the MPA ratings board gives you a rating, you can either accept it, or you can try to cut to get to a rating that you want to, or you can take this process called the appeals process. So we tried to work on it first and made some trims, and then resubmitted it, and they were still like, no, it's still too raunchy. And we trimmed a little more, and they were like, that shit shot will never play in a rated R movie. So at that point, I just felt like, you know what, I won't be comfortable cutting into this flick anymore. Let's just go to the appeals process. So the appeals process is kind of like the last bite you get at the apple. It's actually rather generous of the MPA to do it. What you can do is it takes the decision out of their hands and puts it into the hands of a completely different audience. You first have to accept the rating, so we had to accept the fact that we were NC-17 for a moment. Then you go into the screening that's made up of, ours was 14 people, and the audience is members of the MPA, but not members of the ratings board. And then the other half of the audience is members of NATO, which you're like, holy shit, it's that important? And they tell you it's the National Association of Theater Owners. You're like, oh, which in my line of work is much more important. Man, I suck a NATO guy's dick in a heartbeat to get some theaters. Played a picture, I don't mind telling you that. So we're standing in front of that audience, and basically you screen the flick. Then you get 15 minutes to stand up as a filmmaker and talk about why you feel the movie should be rated R. Joan Graves, who's the head of the ratings board, she gets up, does 15 minutes on why they feel it should be an NC-17. You get 10 minutes to rebut her, she gets 10 minutes to rebut you, which in the instance of this movie sounds vaguely dirty, but it just means you get to answer her. And then you leave the room and they make the decision in your absence, silent vote. And it's weighted in the favor of the MPA because you have to win by 2/3, you can't win by 1 vote. So we had 14 people there. If 8 people voted to overturn the rating, we would have lost. You have to get 2/3. And the 2 areas that they really focused on for this flick was the first porno scene between Jason Mewes and Katie Morgan, which they said had far too much thrusting in it. And I was just like, you think that's got too much thrust? Come to my house. I don't ever thrust. I'm a total bottom. I lay there and let shit happen to me. No woman wants me hovering over. I have no upper body strength. And I would be the guy that would be like, ooh, you know. There goes my wife, dead. So that was the one area. The other area they focused on was the shit shot. They were like, that'll never play. Shit shot, I was just like, oh, it's barely a shot. Like a shot of film, or 1 second of film is 24 frames. That shot's 14 frames, not even a second, but it certainly makes an impact. Definitely did on Jeff Anderson. But so those are the 2 areas that I got to focus on, rather than like trying to answer maybe every egregious error that the field of film has. Those are the two areas they cited. Those are the two areas I addressed. As of the release of Kirby's documentary that you mentioned, you're now allowed to cite precedent, so you can reference other films this time around. Back in the day, we couldn't do it, but now you're allowed to point to another movie that's done something similar and say, check it out, how come they passed and we didn't pass? So when I got up, it's kind of like Inherit the Wind a little bit, maybe not that important. It's like an episode of Law and Order, but the second half. And you get up and you feel like Jack McCoy until you realize you're on trial, so you're not Jack McCoy, you're the guest star of the week. And the other person's Jack McCoy, and you're like, fuck, I'm gonna get hung. So when I got up, I said, look, when you make a movie called Zack and Miri Make a Porno, you know you're going to come under extra close scrutiny when it comes down to rate the movie by virtue of the fact that we included the word porno in the title, and based on that, we did our homework and checked out a bunch of flicks before we started making our flick to make sure we fell safely within the confines of an R. And I said, I know that the MPA feels the movie may be too titillating for a 17-year-old or something like that, but I don't feel it's titillating. I think it's more humorous than anything else. I said, if I was 13 years old and it was 1983 and it was the first time we got cable into my house and this movie was on, yes, I would go to the bathroom and tug one out. I said, but being that we live in 2008, you could open up a laptop and watch real people fucking real other people for like 15 seconds on an MPEG clip, or a bunch of them if you line them up like I do. I said, that's titillating. No kid's going to look at this movie and want to tug one out. This is all about the laughs and whatnot. And they seemed to go for it. They were just like, all right, he admits to tugging one out. He must be honest. So the two precedents I cited, one was Taking Lives, the Angelina Jolie, Ethan Hawke movie. I cited that for the thrusting because I said, look, you go see that movie. They have a very erotic sex scene on a dresser in a room in a little house, and they're just fucking the shit out of each other. And like her boobs are bared. It's the same thing as our scene, except it's meant to titillate, and our scene is meant to be kind of ridiculous because we're doing a comedic version of porn, which porn is kind of a comedic version of sex, or at least an exaggerated version, because I don't know about y'all, but I do not do 26 positions in 10 minutes. So I said,
in order to do that, we had to go over the top, and obviously it's silly, and there's clearly no insertion or anything like that. I said, this scene is meant to make you laugh. That scene was meant to excite you, and they seemed to buy that. And for the shit shot, I went for Jackass the movie. I said, there's a sequence in Jackass the movie called The Fart Helmet, in which Steve-O's wearing a bubble helmet, and there's a hose attached to the helmet, and there's a funnel attached to the hose. His buddy starts barking into it, and it fills up the mask, and Steve-O starts puking. Then at one point, his buddy shits in the funnel, and you kind of see it as they're moving around. And my point is like, look, Jackass is a documentary. That's not plotted. There's no script. That's real shit that those dudes do. So that was real do in that fucking funnel. Like, that's real shit on display. And that movie got an R rating. We have obviously fake shit, and we got an NC from 17. It doesn't really pan out. And they seem to take that into under advisement. Because I was outside talking to Joan Graves, the woman who heads up the ratings board, while we were waiting for the secret ballot to be done. And I was real close to like caving, because I was like, oh, I don't know if I want it. I don't know if I flipped it. So maybe I could try to make a deal, because I've seen Law and Order. They always make a deal before the verdict comes in and shit. So I was on the verge of going, look, Joan, I'll cut out a lot of the thrusting if you let me keep the shit shots. I'd seen the shit shot with the test screening audience. It plays like it did here. Everyone goes, ow! And then it lasts for the next minute. So I was definitely invested in keeping that. And just as I was about to make the deal, just as I was about to start talking about it, the door opens up. Another woman comes out and is like, they overturned it. It's an R. And I was like, good to see you, Joan. Take off. So we skipped. We're now an R-rated film, but we thought that would be the only and last hurdle we'd have to face. But marketing the movie has been a bitch, too. Some cities won't let us put the billboard up that says porno on it, even though the image that we're using to sell the movie, the poster, pictures stick figures. Not even salacious pictures, the most innocuous image possible. Two stick figure camera. It's been kind of strange, man, because some people confuse the title with real pornography, which I'm like, when was the last time you ever saw a porno that had the word porno? Clearly, and also just look at the bottom, it says R. It's clearly not an X, or in their instance, an X movie. So it's been a bit frustrating, but at the same time, the word is about the movie spreads even more. I'm not particularly partial to controversy. I'd much rather the movie just speak for itself. Like, I'd rather be the first context people heard about it would be some friend was like, oh, I saw this movie, it's funny, or they saw a commercial, thought it was funny. Not like, oh, wait, that porno movie that nobody wants to run ads for and shit like that. Like, I'd much rather let the movie speak for itself. Unfortunately, that hasn't quite happened just yet. But we only got 10 days before it comes out. Maybe we can keep that post open. Thank you for letting that play out. Yes.
First, thanks for making Clerks 2. I know you thought a long hard about that. Really thought that was a great movie.
Thank you, yeah.
When you're making a movie, during the creative process, where do you draw the line? Is your characters, your scenes are really edgy? Where do you say, no, that's too much? Or just trying to get it as edgy as you can?
I don't even think that way. To me, it doesn't occur to me as edge. It's just like, what's going to make me laugh? And I feel like if it makes me laugh, it might make other people laugh, because historically, when we've made comedies, that's been the case. Like, I try to please myself, but I'm very masturbatory that way. I like to make myself laugh, and if other people do laugh along, that's kind of cool. So I also feel like I have a pretty good internal barometer for what pushes too far, and it just doesn't even wind up in the flip, because I don't know, I go as comfortable as I can possibly go, which I know is uncomfortable for a bunch of people. Like my mother will never see it. Or enjoy it, I should say. But for me, it's like if I'm okay with it, I figure it'll be okay for the audience, the target audience, the people that are actually going to show up. What's up, man?
What's the backstory on Tom Savini as the actor playing the guy who rents him the storage space?
Yeah, Tom Savini's got a brief cameo in the flick. When we got to Pittsburgh, Tom Savini lives in Pittsburgh, and I've worked there for many, many years. So he worked on his episodes with Romero, amongst other things. When we got there, the moment we landed, that dude started calling me off his hardcore to going like, you know I'm an actor, right? Can I be in your movie? And I was like, haven't you directed movies? Like, what are you asking me for? And he just wanted to be in it, so we had a role that was kind of open. We brought him in, and he did it. And it was a nice tie-in because the movie's set in Monroeville, which any geek worth their salt knows is the home of Dawn of the Dead, where that mall is. And he was in that movie, so there was kind of nice homage for the filmmaker in this town that was kind of working for a little while. Yeah.
Yeah, if Joel Siegel was alive today,
Yeah.
at what point in your new movie would he walk out?
I don't know if Joel Siegel would walk out of this one after the last one.
Really?
But he ain't walking anywhere these days. That was a shame, man. I actually liked Joel Siegel. I thought that was a rather unfortunate thing, and I felt shitty when he died. I felt really shitty when he died, because I was like, oh, fuck, I killed him. But apparently I didn't, and I didn't, and I felt a little better about it. I don't know that he would have made it, at the shit shop in this movie. I doubt he would have made it that far. But some people theorize that he was just having a real bad night when he saw Clerks, too. Because he liked Clerks quite a bit, so it was kind of strange that he got all out of sorts about the second one. And then he died, so I can't really talk to him about it. But thanks for bringing the room down. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a question. I heard in the past that you're a stickler for the dialogue that you write, but in this film you're working with actors like Seth Rogen, people who worked with Avatar before when they improvised. Did you let your actors improvise here, or how did that work out?
Yeah, there was a lot of ad-libbing. I mean, no more than was in James Silent Bob Strike Back. My rule about that is, like, if somebody in the cast is funnier than me, then I give them carte blanche. Like on James Silent Bob Strike Back, I had Will Ferrell and Chris Rock, two dudes who were way funnier than I'll ever be. In this movie, I had Rogen, and Rogen is way funnier than I'll ever be. So he was given free rein, but he actually loved, he adhered to the script, but he's a great ad-libber, more so than an improviser. He loves to button jokes or come up with like 14 buttons to a joke. There was one take, like to the very beginning, it's a real throwaway take, where their boss at the coffee shop says, hey, both of you, Ebony and Ivory motherfuckers, I tell you. He walks away, and then Seth turns and he goes, why is he so high-strung? That take went on for 5 minutes, and it was just him turning to the camera and saying all manner of things, and all of them were absolutely usable. That's what he's so gifted at, is being able to ad-lib a line that sounds like it should be in the movie. Because some actors will just kind of ad-lib lines, and it doesn't sound like a character. It just sounds like fucking Ben Affleck trying to be funny. Not to name any names. So, but with Seth, when he ad-libs a line, it is absolutely usable. It sounds like it's coming out of his character's mouth, not him. It's germane to the discussion of the scene. It's not like, where'd that come from? It's not some weird non sequitur that doesn't fit. And 9 times out of 10, it actually propels the plot forward. So a dude like that, you're absolutely welcome on set, man, because he's not just executing, he's elevating the whole time. Yes?
Yeah, you know, obviously your films have kind of, you know, influenced the whole next generation about coming to see. And I was wondering if there's anyone particularly coming up in the, you know, the big screen that you look forward to.
I would love to work with Seth Rogen. Again, I had a great time with him. I love Jason Siegel and forgetting Sarah Marshall as well. You know, Jonah, all those guys I think are really fun. So yeah, there's nobody that I'm like must work with. Seth was the first person in a long time that I had no association with that I just instantly fell in love with when I saw him in 40-Year-Old Virgin and started writing the script. And I thought I was clever too. I was just like, this dude's a co-star in this movie. I'm going to write him a lead, and then he'll get famous and he'll owe me forever. And he will be after the Virgin. The script all around Los Angeles, all these knocked up billboards start going up with his face on it. And I was like, fuck, this dude's famous already. So I had no incentive to offer him. But I wrote him an email where I said, look, I know you can generate your own material, and obviously your crew's doing really well, but I'm a huge fan. I wrote a script. You're the lead. I would love it if you'd read it, because I think you could use it. And he sent me an email back within like 5 minutes, very quick response, where he said, no bullshit, when I first came out to LA, an agent asked me what I want to do with my career, and I said I want to be in a Kevin Smith movie. That hasn't changed. Please send me the script. So I was like, ching-ching. So this motherfucker's famous now. So it was really kind, really generous of him. Clerks is just a movie that keeps paying dividends even 15 years later. Like this year, I just felt like, wow, the only reason I made Clerks was so that one day Seth Rogen would say yes to Zack and Miri. But it's just like a movie that never quits, man. It's like every once in a while.
Speaking of Clerks, is there any chance of reviving the animated series, maybe like a web-only?
The animated series is kind of caught up in that weird divorce between Miramax and the Weinstein brothers. And Miramax, Disney owns Miramax. Disney owns the cartoon. So in order to do it, Harvey Bob would have to team up with Miramax again, / Disney, and that will never happen. So unfortunately, it's just kind of a victim of a very bad divorce. Yes?
George Lucas step on your balls about Star Wars?
George Lucas has never stepped on my balls, as you say. About Star Wars. I don't even know if he knows we fucking exist. You know what I do know? It's like references on commentary track 1. Also, Affleck went me Thanksgiving at his house one year and called me. He was eating Thanksgiving at Spielberg's house, actually, when he was going out with Gwyneth Paltrow. This is going to sound horribly name-dropping. This is going to be worth it. And they were eating at Spielberg's house on Thanksgiving because her family was very tight with that family, with his family. And he called me up, and he was like, dude, that's where I ate Thanksgiving. I said, I have no idea. He's like, Steven Spielberg's house. I said, get the fuck out of here. He said, but guess who showed up? I said, no. He goes, yes, George motherfucking Lucas came. And I was like, what was it like? He was like, they were both really geeky. Like, I gotta tell you, at one point, they started talking about their own websites, and they had a website off where they kept going to their respective websites to see whose was better. And then they lost interest in that and started surfing porn. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, but it wasn't good, like hardcore porn. It was like a Victoria's Secret website. He's like, it was kind of sad. And I was like, did you ask him though? And he's like, I did. I asked him at one point, I said, have you ever heard of a little picture called Clerks? I said, what did he say? He said, and Ben said that George said, yes, Death Star Contractor is funny. And that was it. And I was like, that's enough. Totally enough. And so for years we've mixed up at Skywalker. From Dogma forward, that's where we go to mix our flicks. And so people that work on it know we've got the Star Wars stuff in there. And Rick McCallum, who's the producer on the sequel trilogy, was really kind to us, let us use sound effects, the Transform Bob Strike Back, the lightsabers and whatnot, because all those sounds are owned by Skywalker and Lucas. But I think this might be the movie that actually tries his patience. Like when he's like, you put balls on R2D? I was going to do that at the 50-year release. We haven't heard from him yet, though. But yeah, straight up no. Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to bring the mood down again, but I've read Silent Bob Speaks, and
yes.
I love the books, but there's a passage in there where you said that, anytime a fan, you want a fan...
I'm fucking fat. Don't ruin my night.
Yeah, I'm doing it. How's it going?
It's not going well, obviously. Look at me.
Well, what the fuck? I mean, no.
I'm married to a woman who actually fucks me. She's not as outraged at my weight. Like, if it was hovering over your ass, then worry. But I'll tell you, to be honest, this is the first movie in a while that I haven't been in. And since I wasn't going to be in the flick, I just decided to let myself go. Normally when I'm going to be on camera, I stay away from craft service and snacks and all that shit. This time around, I was just like, I'm not in this movie. Give me the fucking Rice Krispies. So I started putting on the fucking pounds in a big bad way and whatnot. But, you know, it is what it is. It's weird. I look in the mirror now and I see my father, who's dead, which is really creepy. I don't see him in the mirror like, yeah! I see myself in the mirror, and that's kind of disconcerting. Like, I see him at age 65, and I'm like 38, and I'm like, shit, I let go real early. But, yeah, I'm working on it. Once this movie's out of my hair, I'm going to just go hide for a few months and just drop a bunch of weight and shit. I've done it before. Like, I've dropped 100 pounds of clip. It takes a little while when I go on like a harsh all-liquid diet, but it totally worked. Well, it doesn't work because I got fucking fat again. Shit, I thought I was coming to Chicago to a home of like sausage eaters. And motherfuckers would be like, come, you're one of us. What happened to you, man?
I know.
As if I was ever thin to begin with. But I'll tell you, man, I kind of did reach my rock bottom recently. I was playing a poker game at the James Bob Secret Stash comic book store. That one of them, we won in Red Bank, New Jersey. One, this one I was at was in Los Angeles on Pico. It's in a store called Laser Blazer. And we're in the back. So we go poker tournaments at those two stores. I fly back and forth, hang out, people play poker tourneys and whatnot. I was doing really well this one night in Los Angeles at one of the poker tourneys, and I felt like, you know what, now's the time, I'm up, I should go take a shit. So I went downstairs, because we were playing upstairs, and I went to the Laser Blazer bathroom for the first time. Opened the door, and the first thing I noticed is the wall behind the toilet is very waterlogged. So I was like, that's interesting to note. The next thing I saw was even more terrifying. Most toilets I've ever sat on are bowls sitting on a pedestal, so there's support for the portland, or anybody, thin people as well. But a fat person looks at the toilet and is like, that better fucking hold. The toilet in this bathroom had no base. It just jutted straight out from the wall. So if this is the wall, the toilet was like this. Nothing underneath it. It was like a magic trick. And it just looked like really an extended urinal more than anything else. But it was definitely a toilet, and I'm looking at that going, that is no friend to a fat man. But I had to go, so I was like, fuck it. And I did that thing, that trick that every woman I've ever known in my life always talks about when they go in public restrooms, which is the hover. You know? They're like, well, I never sit on the bowl. So I'm trying to hover over the fucking bowl, balancing on my haunches while I'm dropping the kids off at the pool. And at this point, it's more like target practice, because I'm so high above the bowl that I'm trying to get in there, like, not hit the seat, so to speak. So I'm doing that, and I finish up, and then it comes time to wipe, which is always an ordeal. And I knew that I would actually have to sit down on the bowl to do that, because I have a back wiper. It used to be a front wiper, but that was kind of weird. Pull my dick and balls up and walk this way. And then when we had our daughter, like the doctor, well, before we left the hospital, a nurse gave us a quick lesson on how to change the baby. And she's like, when you wipe from front to back. And I was like, really? Okay, because otherwise you get stuff in some shit in the thing. I was like, that's why I get fucking shit in my ball hair. So I became a back wiper at that point. So I'm sitting on the toilet, I rest myself gently on the toilet so I can lean forward to wipe, and the first thing I hear is, which is never a good sound. And it just felt like I was sitting on the end of a diving board. Like it had some give to it. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, I should really flush this toilet. Like, I don't know why. I didn't have one of those sensors like in an airport. You have to flush it yourself. And I was like, I should flush it just to be safe. And I was like, you know what? What could possibly happen? So I sit and lean forward to wipe, and all of a sudden the bowl goes, and the bowl hits the floor, and I go from like sitting like this to sitting like this, like I'm on a fucking roller coaster. And the contents of the bowl are going whoop whoop, risking, you know, dangerous kind of overlap, which would fall into my pants around my ankles. So I'm like, this is horrible on every fucking end. And I don't want to get off the bowl because I've looked back as best as I can, and I saw the porcelain was cracked. Like, I literally broke that fucker off the porcelain, and I'd love to blame the wet wall, like it just came out of the wet wall, but the base stayed in the wall. The toilet went with me. So I was terrified, and I was just like, I gotta get off the bowl. And so I gave myself a 3 count, because I was afraid that if I tried to get up, the bowl would crash, the shit would fall in my pants. Nasty soup. So I'm like, I'm going to count to 3 and jump, like Lethal Weapon 2. So I did it, throw myself off the bowl, and hit the door, and quick turn around to see if anything's coming at me. And it was just sitting there, just resting with the cracked porcelain. And I hear on the other side of the door somebody waiting, I guess to use the bathroom. They're like, "You okay in there?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be on in a second. Don't worry about it." They thought I was shitting bricks or something. So I just stand there looking at the toilet for 10 or 15 minutes because I'm like, what the fuck can I do? If there's somebody out there, I can't be like, "Who did it?" Well, I open the door just a crack, and I'm like, "Hey man, can you go get Ron in the bathroom?" This is such a strange moment. And I said, "No, dude, look." And he looks at the toilet, and he sees it, and then he looks at me, and he sees the panicked expression in my face, and he thinks about the tenuous nature of our business relationship. He's like, "Nobody ever has to know." And I was like, right on. That was the moment right then and there where I was like, I got seriously going to drop the fucking light. And now I'm paranoid about any bathroom, any toilet that doesn't have a pedestal, which is like every airport bathroom. I've been on a lot of planes lately with the flick and whatnot. I get to an airport, I'm like, I gotta shit, because I can't shit in an airplane bathroom. They're so fucking tiny, man. It takes me like 10 minutes to get the pants down and shit. I need to like sit like a sumo on the toilet. Spread my legs in the airplane bathroom, you got crossed like you're a lady, and then I gotta pull one cheek over the side, and one cheek over the other side. So to stay in the answer, I usually wait till I get back to the airport. But all the airport bathrooms have that toilet just right out the wall. So now I'm like, I can't shit on that. That time was a bad shit. I've been pinching a lot lately. Thanks for bringing that up. Man, sir, kid, you, yeah.
Anyways, I realized this just came out, and you're worried about this.
What just came out? This? This ain't even out yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Can you tell us anything about Red State? Because I'm really excited about that.
Red State is the movie I want to do next. It's a horror movie. It's like a $3-5 million horror movie. It's like 180 degrees away from everything I've ever done. There's no laughs in it whatsoever. It's real bleak and dark. But having a hard time finding money for it. It's just, it's kind of it's uncommercial as fuck, and there's nobody worth rooting for in the movie. Everybody dies. Everyone makes a series of really bad choices. Bleak. It's so bleak it makes Dark Knight look like fucking Beverly Hills Chihuahua. So, you know, you can't hand that script to somebody and then be like, "Can I have a check, please?" You know, especially in these harsh economic times that we're living in the moment, which aren't so harsh for me. The moment the economy in this country collapsed, I think I was the only one that was happy about it, because I was like, that makes my movie more plausible. People start fucking for money, you know? So that's coming. Hopefully we're going to be doing it this spring, March or April, something like that. Once we find some cash. Do you have any cash?
Not that much, but I was asking about if you'd be willing to do it on like an indie budget, like something small.
It's a little more ambitious. That $3 to $5 million budget isn't even a comfortable budget, because there's a lot of, there's some effects in it and whatnot. So that's us doing it for rock bottom at this point. I don't know that we could accomplish it for any less than that. And I say that as the guy that made Clerks, but at the same time, Clerks, 2 dudes standing at a counter and talking about sex and Star Wars, you know, that's not a very expensive movie to make. This movie, there's a lot more going on. Yes?
So you mentioned Clerks, and I was thinking about Clerks. You know, you've got a very static camera, not a lot of movement, but when you watch Zack and Miri, it's sort of your latest film, you've got lots of camera movement. I'm curious, have you grown as sort of a cinematographer? I know you worked with Dave Klein.
Have I grown? Come on, don't be like that guy. I told you. As a filmmaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think only recently, only with Clerks 2, and then I directed this pilot for this TV show, Reaper, that my DP, Dave Klein, shot with me, and then we did Zack and Miri together. And those 3 is kind of, I think, where we started to establish a visual style, because in the beginning with the first movie, when Clerks came out, all the reviews were like, this movie looks like shit, but it's fucking enjoyable and fun, and we love the characters. So they gave me a pass on the visual. And I just took that as a pass to be lazy for the rest of my life. I was just like, apparently I never have to try as long as I can tell me one night. It's only been recently that I'm like, maybe I could bring visual aspect up there to meet the dialogue aspect. So we have actually been trying. Thank you for noticing. I think it looks the best thing we've ever done in this movie, visually speaking.
So on the Dave Klein note, you didn't work with him for a while. How was it to work with him again on Zack and Miri?
It was fantastic. It was like a homecoming. For years, I did Clerks, Mars, chasing in with Dave Klein. Then Dogma, the studio, Miramax, was just like, we won't put you with a real DP. I was like, he's a real DP. Well, yeah, he's really young and really inexperienced. We won't put you with a guy who shot a bunch of comedy so that you can become a better filmmaker. So we did that, and then the next film, I was like, all right, we're going back to Dave. And I'm like, no, we got to get you with a more commercial DP because it'll improve your style. And the third time, Jersey Girl, they put me with Vilmos Sigmund, who's like an Academy Award-winning DP. And you look at those three movies, Dogma and James Bond Strikes Back and Jersey Girl, and they kind of look about as visually uninteresting as our earlier films. They're very straightforward, very flat movies. So I think they finally got the point that, like, we can put him with a great DP, and he's going to turn the great DP into shit. So with Clerks 2, it was low budget enough for me to be like, you got to give us Dave. Dave was shot the original, so don't fuck around with this one. They let us use Dave, and they were so happy with the results that they haven't given us Klein again. And I promised Dave after Clerks 2, as we do that, we'll never not work with him. So far, I've been able to keep that promise. Yes? A Midwest James Bond secret session. Somebody would have to run it. I don't know who would run it. You? Would you steal from me? How can I know? That's true. And when it goes in the toilet, I was like, he lied to me. He did steal. No, I always felt like the comic book story should at least be in a place where I spend a lot of time. I spend a lot of time in Jersey. I spend an inordinate amount of time in Los Angeles. I rarely get out here, so it'd be weird to have a store here. And plus, I think, like, I don't know, like soon, in the next 5-10 years, people aren't even going to remember James Bond Boss, so it'd be weird to have that comic book store. People going like, who are those guys? And people will be like, once upon a time, a dude made some very shitty movies that made no money, but people liked them. Good to see you. How are you? Did you? Right on. From where? Morris County. Yeah, I know that. Yeah, you called me Smith? That's so cute. Thank you so much. Thanks. Mm-hmm. We didn't personally, like him and I, but in the press many times he's been like, Clerks is the movie that made me want to be a filmmaker, made me want to start writing, made me want to get into comedy. So he gave me my props and whatnot. He was a fan. So when we got to work together, it was like a mutual blowjob society. Like, you're great. No, you're great. But it was nice. It was so comfortable working with him because we have very, very similar sense of humor. In fact, he's the only person I worked with that actually tried to make things dirtier. Which I was like, this is fun. Normally I get people going like, tame it down. And Rogan was like, fuck, let's throw a cunt in there. Very good interaction. I love him that I work with him. He's talented. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes?
I know that in the audition scene, Cradle the Balls were shaft.
Yeah.
A real life story.
Yeah.
Was there any other lines in those auditions?
Not in the audition story, but the shit shot, that really happened to a DP who's now a director as well. A DP, which is funny for this movie. But there's a guy named Barry Sonnenfeld who directed The Addams Family and Get Shorty, and for a long time he was the Coen Brothers' original DP. Before he got into mainstream film, or film in general, he was in porn. He shot porn. And apparently that happened to him. He was shooting an anal sequence and somebody pulled out and he got blasted. So he's the one dude that I can't wait to hear his reaction on it. Because I don't know him, I've never met him, but I've heard that story. I put it in the flick and I'm waiting I want an email from him or a call going, either you nailed it or dude, you didn't even come close. Yes. Yeah. I was talking to him, but
can you talk about how you ended up with EP4? Were you guys like just having a legal started?
I had not. I didn't know anything about Katie. I didn't want. It was never my intention to cast porn stars in the movie. I never thought about that. Seth read it, and one of the things he talked about after he first read it was we should cast porn stars in some of the roles. And I was like, really? He's like, yeah, like Stacey and Bubbleville will have a lot of heavy lifting in the movie, so we can get an actress who maybe isn't a great actress, but is real happy to take her clothes off. And I was like, that's a pretty sound fucking conclusion. He said, think about it. He's going like, if you have a porn chick in the movie, and you have to go up to her and be like, okay, now's the scene where you take your bluff, you won't even get the sentence off before she's got it on the floor. And nothing you can ask her to do will be nearly as horrible as what she does in her day job. And I was like, you are fucking smart, Seth. So we started thinking about that, but the problem is most of the porn actresses, they're very convincing at the sex acting, but when it comes to dialogue, they're pretty lame. I was researching them on the web for just the movie I saw. And I saw Katie Morgan's name come up a few times. I didn't know her. I don't really follow the porn world that much, but that name didn't pop for me. I didn't recognize it, so that drew me to it, and I Googled her, and then I hit one of the links, which was a YouTube clip of a porn she did, but it wasn't porn in YouTube. Like, you can't put porn up on YouTube. So it wasn't the porn part of the scene, it was the acting that leads up to the nookie. So I thought she was really convincing. I was just like, wow, she's like, it's not like, wow, she's good for a porn actress. Like, she was good for an actress. So we got in contact with her and asked her if she wanted to be in the play. She was all about it. Watching the movie through the prism of her perspective has been phenomenal because she's so excited about everything. She's just so happy. Like, we just had the premiere last night in Los Angeles. She was so fucking ecstatic. Like, I've been doing it 15 years now. I'm a little jaded. I don't want to go to the premiere and shit. I've seen the movie a zillion times. They're like, no, this is the premiere. I'm like, I don't give a shit. Like, I've got it at my house. I'll watch it in my bed. That's the fucking premiere. Your people could come over, and you can all hang out in the living room, and I'll be watching Law and Order. But she was so into it, man. She was just like, she got all glammed up and whatnot, and the whole thing's just been like this real fun ride for her. So it's been kind of cool to watch it from her perspective. She maintains that, like, I asked her, I was like, what if you get more mainstream work? She's like, that'd be great. And I was like, well, would you quit the porn, right? And she's like, no, I want to be able to do both. I said, really? She's like, it'd be nice to be the first actress to do mainstream film and continue doing porn. I was like, well, why would you continue doing porn? She's like, I like the fuck. And I was like, you are every 16-year-old boy's fantasy. The porn star that's like, I actually like sex, But she's a really, really sweet woman. She's really, really, really kind. Very friendly, super smart. She got like 180 IQ or something ridiculous like that. So having her was a true benefit. She was actually able to help me out with the shooting too, because when we were shooting her Fox News, she was talking about like when we shoot porn, we got one person covering it, everything, every orifice, all graphically, and there's another camera over here that's meant for like the SpectraVision in-room movies that don't, go up to X ratings. They're more like softcore horror. So she's like, if you move the camera over here, it's going to look like we're really fucking. I was like, all right, teach me how to direct, Katie Morgan. So I learned something. She's really quite nice. Yes, ma'am. You know what? I got to go to the studio first.
I was wondering what it was like having a great story there because she was like, performing very sharp.
Yeah.
Wow, she kind of pulled away from that.
No, because by the time we got there, all that stuff was kind of talked out. Like Traci was kind of a coup for us because most people know her from, her infamous past. We sent her agent the script, and the agent's like, she ain't gonna do it. It's got porno in the title, because ever since she left porn, she hasn't made a fuck film in 20 years. And ever since she left the field, she's kept porn at great arm's length and has written a book about how bad it was and shit like that. And insensitively, we sent her our script. And she heard that Seth was in it, so she was, a little more interested. She came over to my house to read the script. And we sat around talking for like 3 hours. And the conclusion of it was just like, for years I've been trying to avoid porn, but maybe it's time that I just kind of embrace my past and make fun of it. And I was like, yeah, please do it. It was weird, man. We did like literally sit around talking for such a long time, and I was just like, if I could just go back in time and tell the 16-year-old version of me that one day I'd be like in my living room with Traci Lords and my parents aren't there. Like the 16-year-old version of me would be like, where'd you get a time machine? Why did you waste it done this shit? What happened to us? Did we fuck Traci Lords? And I'm like, oh, look at us. You know? So it was rather cool. And she's such a weird pro, man. She took a lot of acting training after she got out of porn. She's real method and very serious about the job. Sweet woman, man, but she's definitely an artist. She loves acting. Loves it and take that way. And then all we gave her to do was shoot fucking bubbles at her twat. So I gotta find a role for Traci where she gets to it. Yes. Thank you. Right on. Thank you.
I was curious. Producer now, does he help contribute some to the writing and directing process, or does he just stay on the producer side now?
Scott Mosier's contributions can be summed up thusly. Without Scott Mosier, I find it nearly impossible to walk out on the set and do my job. Just having him there, he's a true enabler, is a real help, because that's the only way I've ever done it, and done with Scott all these years. And what he's really great at is in the scripting phase. He's a wonderful editor. I'll write like a 160-page draft of the script, give it to him. He'll find all the pages to lose and all the line cuts to make. He's like, you button this joke 6 times, maybe 2 is fine. Stuff like that. And then he's a great guy to bounce cuts off as well. So I'll sit there cutting and be like, what do you think? But he's very involved and always has been. And the movie is kind of about, this movie is about us, really. It's like a porn version of how we made Clerks, but me and Scott never fell in love. We did fuck though, but we never fell in love. Yes.
Where did the Dutch Rudder come from?
Dutch Rudder, the concept of the Dutch Rudder was introduced to me by my DP, Dave Klein. Not, physically, but he told me about it. And I was like, that's genius. You get somebody trying to jerk you off, and it wouldn't be gay. And he's like, it's a joke. Nobody does it. I was like, I think we should try. So once I heard that, I was like, well, I got to find a place for that. And when I was writing this, I was like, ooh, the Dutch Rudder. I added the double Dutch Rudder. My little addition. And then we actually shot, but I didn't include it in the movie. There's Jay goes on to say, but my favorite is the double Dutch Bud Rudder. A Dutch Rudder with the finger up your ass. Jason's cock, how much convincing does it take? Surprisingly a lot, because Jason Mewes, I've known Jason for 17, 18 years now, and I've seen that dude's dick more than I've ever seen my own. By virtue of the fact that, not that I'm looking, but he just shows it, he takes it out all the time. He's one of those dudes known for 5 minutes. You'll be standing next to him, and he's just like, is it cold in here? You're like, what do you mean? Oh, put it away. So he's always got it out and whatnot. So, on the other flicks, we see him in various states of undress and Clerks, so we did the tough. So in this movie, I was like, dude, when you come out the room, you got to be hanging, man, hanging proud the way you always are. And he was just like, I can't do that. And I was like, why? And he was just like, because, man, film's forever. People will see it on DVD and shit. And what if it's not big enough? I was just like, well, and at that point I was like, it wasn't big enough, because I've seen it a lot, and it's usually very small. So I was telling him, dude, it's fucking huge. Don't worry about it. And then he checked with his fiance, and his fiance was like, yeah, as long as it's not in the middle of the sex scene, do it. So he comes out to that door, and I'm watching the monitor on set, and he emerges, and I'm like flabbergasted by the size of his cock. I felt like he had the Mark Wahlberg prosthetic. So this just looks like 4 times as big as I've normally ever seen it. And I pulled him over. I said, what happened to your dick? And he was like, I'm my own fluffer. So right before that door opened, he was just sitting there like, and he hears this cue and he quick steps out. And I'm bringing him up, but it's in my life, so it happened. Affleck came over to the house to watch the flick. He wasn't involved. He'd never seen it, so he came to my house after I was cutting and watching the movie. And the third thing he said about the movie after he got done watching it was, he realized Mewes is 1 pump away from total lift-off. I know, that's not his normal thing. Like that is not his normal thing. We've all seen it many times. Mewes had the best counter to that line. But oh, fucking Ben Affleck, that ain't me on the way up, that's me on the way down. That's why I fucked you. Sorry?
Is Jason Mewes sober now?
Jason Mewes has been sober. We just talked about this last night. In April, it'll be 6 years completely clean. He has done a very, very good job. I mean, that was a dude who I never imagined would be clean a week, let alone 6 years. And he found a way to kind of wrap his head around it and live sober. Doesn't drink, doesn't do drugs. He's just hard. Now he's more hyper, though. Sometimes I'm like, dude, do some heroin. Calm down. Yes?
What's up, Brandon? Do you ever see your version of Superman?
Oh, no, this is about as close to my version of Superman as I'll get from the guy who played Superman with Brandon Routh. It was real sweetheart. I mean, they all are. I would tell you if there were any of them were pricks. But Brandon was a really nice guy. But when we were shooting that sequence, I was like, dude, don't you, I mean, you played Superman. Don't you have some sort of moralist clause in your contract? Warner Brothers doesn't let you do this kind of thing? He's like, what is it, 1941? Like, they don't do that. He's like, the only thing I would have to alert them if I was going to go play another superhero. Other than that, I can do what I want. And I was like, right on, get in there and kiss that fucking guy. No. You're way up there. I'm way down here.
Second question, what inspired you to come to Batman and miniseries?
You know, I want to work with my friend Walter Flanagan. He's drawn the book. So I called up this dude at DC and was like, hey, can I write a Batman miniseries? And they said, yeah, go ahead, because I worked on Green Arrow a few years ago and whatnot. And I said, can I get my friend Walter to draw it? He's done a few comic books. He drew a comic book called Carney, one called Worthy, I said. And they were like, yeah, absolutely. Send us samples of his work and shit. But Walter was like, I said, Walt, man, we're going to do Batman book. And he was just like, they're going to let me do it? And I said, yeah, I called up and said, I want you to do it. And he was like, I have a feeling if you told them your kid was going to draw it, they would have said, yeah. Probably, but whatever. So, yeah, it comes out first week of November or something like that.
What's the hardest part of making a movie for you?
Like I said, I did do it. I should do somebody else. We'll come back if nobody else has anything. Yes?
Do you let your daughter see your movies?
I've only ever showed her one, and not by virtue of the fact that I'm like, ooh, these movies are too grown up for you. She would just be bored to fucking death on that movies because a bunch of adults sitting around talking about shit she knows nothing about. Like, they're never referencing fucking Hannah Montana or Zack and Cody or fucking, you know, High School Musical, so she's like, I don't give a shit what they're talking about. So I did show her James Bond Bob Strike Back just because that was kind of the most visually colorful, it almost looked like a cartoon kind of brought to life and whatnot. And we're running around, me and Uncle Jay run around a bunch and run into walls and meet the Scooby Gang and shit. We showed her that when she was about 4 years old. And she was kind of interested in the one sequence where the girls flip down the hallway and then one of them farts. And I was just like, wow, man, that must be my kid. She loved the fucking fart joke. Read about it. But that was the only one she'd ever showed interest in. But, you know, as soon as she's like remotely interested, I would be happy to show this. But it's not meant that I'm like, ooh, you can't see this until you grow up. Oh, yes.
After making such a sweet, like, one of the sweetest movies I've seen in a long time.
Which one? It is a sweet movie, isn't it? Isn't it crazy? Did you cry? You fucking pussy. What did you cry at? What made you cry? Yeah, see, that is rather sweet. Yeah. Yeah. I know. I get yelled at for that too by Harvey Weinstein. He's like, why is the fucking love scene at the end? She's taking a shit. And I said, I never said she's taking a shit. Where'd your head go? You fecal freak. I think it is. It is. Thank you. But anyway.
Well, if you would place one main red state next, supposed to be the darkest thing.
Oh, I didn't say it's the darkest thing you'd ever see. No, I said it was dark. It's just not the darkest thing you'll ever see. I don't want to take that. That's really throwing your dick out there. People see a movie like it's not dark, and then I feel like small like Mewes when he's not in this movie. I don't know. I wrote Zack and Miri over the course of a week, and we were waiting for Seth to get back to us. So I started writing Red State, and for years people have been saying like, oh, you talk about sex and religion, but you never talk about politics. And I'm not that guy. I don't like to get on a soapbox and talk about my own personal politics, but I found a way to kind of do it with the movie, and then it made sense. So I guess it is kind of my political film. It's a political horror film, which is kind of what Oliver Stone's W is right now, but this is a real horror film. Yeah.
First, I wanted to say that I think Smodcast is the reason the internet was invented.
Thank you, sir.
But other than that,
Those who don't know, I do a podcast with my producer Scott Mosier called Smodcast. We've done, 66 episodes so
yeah,
far?
66.
It's kind of weird. It's just two dudes, free associating, and they're pretty funny.
But as you move away from the Buick universe films, do you think it's likely that you're going to continue to cast the same, band of miscreants?
Yeah, I had Jeff in this, and I had Jason in this. So, yeah, I imagine I'll work with Ben again one day. He seems more interested in directing than acting right now. But yeah, it's not like I'm turning my back on all that. It's just those characters. Yeah, I'm kind of done with those characters. But the actors and performers, no. I'll try to use them if I can. Yeah. That's technically a question. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, she was really great in the movie. Originally, it was written for Rosier. It was awesome because I loved her in Clerks too, so I thought it was a no-brainer for her to play Miri, and she was in. And then Rogen asked us to wait. We were supposed to shoot the movie from November until Christmas of last year, and Rogen was like, "You know what, dude? I just got done with all the international press on Knocked Up and super bad. I just want to lay on my couch for 3 months, get high, and play video games. So I just recharge my batteries, and I've always wanted to work with you. I don't want to be all fucking tuckered out while I'm doing it. Can we start in January instead?" And I was like, "Yeah, totally." Not thinking that it would adversely affect us, but unfortunately, Rosier had this other movie, Eagle Eye, lined up, which she's in right now, to shoot from January to March, so we were going to lose out on it. So it left us with no Miri whatsoever. So we called up all the agencies and said, "Can we get a list of the available actresses from January to March?" And 2 pages long. And we whittled it down to 6 names. The names of the actresses we thought might say yes, or at least wouldn't slap us when we handed them the script. Banks was alphabetically at the top of the list. So Rogen comes over the house and talking about some movie stuff, and I was like, "Okay, let's talk about Miri. Here's the list." And before I could even finish pushing it over, he's like, "Elizabeth Banks. Oh my God, I love Elizabeth Banks. She was a 40-year-old virgin with us, and she got very far in the Knocked Up audition. She was almost the lead and Knocked Up, the female lead. I would love to have make pretend sex with her." So she came over, read the script, and we sat around talking, and I dug her, and boom, she got cast. And thank God, because, man, she was just so good in the movie. She really kind of elevates it. She makes it work. She kind of gives it, she grounds it a little bit in a good way. Yeah.
What was the biggest challenge in making this particular film?
The biggest challenge, it's such a boring answer, it was weather. We went to Pittsburgh looking for really cold weather, and it was cold, but we were looking for snow, and sadly the snow wasn't around when we wanted it. Anytime we wanted snow, it was bright out, but still fucking freezing cold. And anytime we didn't want snow, it would fucking dump snow on us. So that was the only thing, man, that was really kind of the hang-up with the movie. But we just made fake snow, because, movie business. So the only real snow in the movie is in the beginning when his car's fishtailing in the parking lot. That's actually real snow. The rest of the snow we just kind of created ourselves. Yeah. Go ahead. Hey, how are you? Long time no see. Very good. That pleasure working with you. Book for Sal, what's my favorite? How do I like to fuck? I have one position. I just lay down. Mercifully, my wife is a real active top, and I'm just a dirty bottom. I just lay there, man. That's all I do. And thankfully, she's easily orgasmic, so I don't have to put much work into it. That's how our marriage operates.
The porn titles, did you have a favorite? And you said you wrote that over a week. Did you have them all saved up, or were you found them all? People throwing that in?
The porn titles, aside from the ones that I'd written into the script when we were shooting that day, of course, everybody had their favorites that they were just calling out, and we'd have them saying as well. There's a bunch of them that we didn't even put in the movie.
Do you have a favorite?
Porn title? Yeah, of all time. It's not a movie-based one. It's not like Edward P. Sands. My favorite porn title ever is Jerk My Cum Crayon and Color Me White. Isn't it awesome? It just tells the story. Thanks for coming out. Great seeing you.